Hello, this is Keith with Vintage Fishing Reel Rescue. I like to find reels at garage sales, flea markets, thrift stores, wherever. Estate sales are real good for them. Find the fishing reels, rods, pick them up and clean them up, get them back in service, get them back out on the water doing what they're meant to do. A lot of times these things get just set off to the side, forget about them for years, and then they end up in the trash can somewhere. And I like to keep them working. These old ones are really decent quality. They're well made. They survived for years. Some reels are 50, 60 years old and they still work great, so there's something to be said about the older stuff. So let's let this here today. We have the Olympic ESM1 spinning reel. This one here I picked up at a thrift store, as I mentioned. This 3.73 to 1 gear ratio. It has the folding handle. Oops. Which appears to be, there we are. Here we go. Folds over that way. It's a quick folding handle, which is really nice. It's very gummed up. It's probably grease choked. Very hard to turn. And our reverse is not working either. The lockout, it's always in lockout position, so it's not working. The bail release is not working at all. There's nothing tripping that bail. So this one's pretty neglected. Well, the drag still works. That's a bonus. Alright, well, let's get into this one. Let's start by removing the external parts here. We'll remove the drag nut. You can see some rust down in there. That's never a good sign. And that's not going to want to come off there. Whoop, there it is. Yep, got it. Yeah, as you can see, the shaft does have rust on it. So either the shaft is not stainless or these washers probably not stainless. We'll have to get into that, clean that all out. A lot of gummed up, old, dried up hard grease. That's probably what we're going to find inside this thing also. Also saying this is not the correct screw for the handle. It does work. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find the correct one, but as long as the handle's not falling off, I guess it'll be alright. Let's pull this screw out. There's some washers on it. We want to be careful not to drop. Quite a long screw there. And another washer there in the case. There we go. Put them all onto there. Pull the handle out. Oh, that's a shaftless handle. We'll put the screw right back in, and that explains why that screw is so long. Put that over in our parts. Alright, we already know we have bail issues, so well, let's get in here and we'll get this tore apart. Let's get this side cover off. See if we got broken parts. What's going on? This reel appears to be in pretty nice shape, other than it is gummed up and rusty. I mean, the body's real good shape. It don't look like it was abused. It definitely neglected, of course. Probably sat in somebody's tackle box for a long time and never used. Let's get a better screwdriver. That one's a little bit smaller, so we'll go to a bigger screwdriver that fits the slot better and doesn't tear it up. Get this one loosened up, and then go back to the smaller one. Here we are. I'm going to pay attention, make sure these screws are all the same length. This has fine thread screws. This is a metal case reel, so it's not the coarse thread screws like in the graphite or plastic reels. Get this cover off here. I'll try to leave that main shaft in there if I can. I don't know I haven't had one of these apart. There we go. That way I don't pull anything out of place that I don't know where it goes. Alright, this one, let's see, there's a washer there. Does not look like it is a bushing. It just uses the case as a bushing. The anti-reverse lever is free to move, and this washer sits on top of the main gear. It acts as a spacer. It also holds this eccentric piece on. so it doesn't pop up or ride against the case. So we don't lose that. Make sure it gets back in there. This arm here just lifts off. You want to pay attention to the orientation of that, the way it is, so you get it back into the body properly and it works right. It just lifts off. It is stuck on there a little bit, so there we go. Pull that up off that pin. The pin come with it. The pin actually appears to be slightly bent. I don't know if I can straighten that up without breaking it. I don't want to break it because I don't know where I'd find another one. It is stuck onto that. That may be... that should come off there. There we go. That's the way it should come off, and then that pin goes into the axle shaft. That's what makes that axle shaft move. Is this piece is on here. You turn the crank, and you can see that. Now it's kind of hard to do now that I got it apart, but that goes in and out, or up and down, whatever you want to say. Hard to see it. I'll show you when I get it all back together and lubricated. Put that over there. We'll pull our main gear out. That main gear's caught. Let's pull our axle shaft out first. It's quite stiff coming out. That's quite gummed up. Wipe this off as we go. Use a lot of paper towels and Q-tips, that type of thing. Well, this has rust on it. I'm going to use my stainless steel brush here and kind of brush it to get that rust off that shaft and clean it up. Should clean up decent. Hopefully there's not a lot of pitting, although that's not a moving area up in there I got to be too concerned about, but I don't want the rotor getting stuck on it either. I'm sorry, the spools. So we want to make sure we can get this apart in the future to lubricate it and service it. Let's try to get this fiber washer off here without breaking it. And I kind of broke it, but that'll be okay. We've got others. Get all this rust cleaned up. That's cleaned up pretty good. So I suspect the rust is running off of the drag washers. And just a little piece of emery cloth. Actually, let's use some real fine steel wool on that. Clean that up. We don't want to remove any metal. We're just trying to get the rust, tarnish, and corrosion off of it. There we go. Stick that over there. Now we should be able to get the main shaft out, or the main gear, which it does. No bushing on that side either. This is a lower quality reel, lower end reel rather. Still seems to be okay made. I mean, I would have rather had this have bushings, replaceable bushings in it. Yeah, that grease is quite sticky, as you can see. It's gumming everything up. As I've said in other videos, penetrating oil works good as a cleaner to get all that old grease and stuff moving and get it cleaned up and everything, get it softened up so we can get it out of there. And grab a Q-tip here and we'll get this cleaned up. Okay. Take and hit this just a little bit to get that It's just PB Blaster I'm using here. You can use any penetrating oil of your choice, WD-40, PB Blaster. I've got this other Tri-Flow, which is a lubricant, penetrating oil lubricant. Penetrating oil has solvents in it that help loosen this grease and dry them all up. So that's why it works good as a cleaner, and also will help lubricate. It's not great lubricating properties, but it does have some. I like to use like I have Super Lube lightweight grease. It is saltwater rated. It is rated for -45 degrees Fahrenheit. up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. It definitely stays pliable. Doesn't mix with the water or anything, so it stays in good shape every time I take my reels apart. Once a year I take them apart and service them, get them ready for the next season. The grease is always in good condition. I clean it all out, put all fresh in there, and yeah, I don't have any issues with my reels during the season, unless I break something, which does happen. Okay, the main gear's cleaned up. Let's get this case cleaned up while I'm right here. I'm going to take my soft plastic brush and brush all this loose stuff here off, or break it loose. There we go. You'll notice on this case too, this has a slot right here. That pin that come out with that eccentric arm, that pin rides in that slot, so we want to make sure to lubricate that. This is, this is the anti-reverse dog here. It works with this notched gear here so that the spool is locked out of reverse. So you flip that little lever, this moves, and then it go either way. So we're going to make sure we lubricate this piece, lubricate this. Almost seems like that needs a spacer onto it. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. No, that's working better there. Nope. Yes, this does need a definitely lubricated. It's sticky. That's what that issue is. Okay, get that fairly cleaned up. We'll lubricate this on a reassembly. Before we get the rotor off, there is this clip right down in here behind this gear. It holds it in here. This rotor reel does not have a bearing, any bearings. It's all bushing. So let's slide that clip up and out. Wipe that off. Get all that grease off there best we can here. That'll make it go back together a little easier too if that's clean. Now this rotor slides out. It should slide out. This rotor slides out. That dirt and stuff, I believe, is keeping it from coming out. Okay. Why is that not wanting to come out? It's not good. There we go. We got it. Oh, there's a broken part. I was afraid of that. This is a piece of the bail release mechanism. It is like a pot metal. It's broke. There's not much you can do about it. If you can find another one of these parts reels, rob that piece out of it. It's about the only option you got. You're not going to find that used somewhere unless somebody's parting out one of these reels and has it listed separately on eBay. Nah, it's really too bad. It's a nice little reel. It's not that high quality of a reel, but it is a nice little reel. But we'll go ahead and we'll finish servicing it. Maybe I'll come across a reel that's missing a bunch of parts that I can get that out of her. Maybe I'll find just the rotor. Bail seems to be tripping okay. We'll lubricate it, get that freed up a little more. Let's get this rotor cleaned out. With that part being broken, there's not a lot of sense in spending a lot of time cleaning up parts that aren't going to work anyway. So as far as like that bail release and that, it's not going to release anyway. You can still use this reel, don't get me wrong. You can manually release the bail or manually trigger the bail and still be able to use the reel. Just the automatic release is not working. Excuse me. Get all that dirt and grease out of there. Come down in here. We'll use a little bit of penetrating oil to get this grease off here, off the pivot or pinion gear. Yeah, that works pretty good. I'm not sure if a Q-tip will fit into that opening or not. If not, I do have orifice brushes that I can use. Let's give a Q-tip a try. I think it'll work in there. Put a little bit of penetrating oil down into here. See if we can work that in. Oh yeah, that'll work good at getting all that grease out of the hole there, out of the shaft that the axle shaft rides in. I mean, opening the axle shaft rides in. Pinion gear looks to be, it's got some wear. Is actually chipped tooth right there. Let's clean this teeth out on this. I am using a little bit harder brush on this. This stuff's quite caked in there. Should be using plastic brush on this type of thing. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely wear and some chipped teeth. You can feel it when you feel that gear. You can feel the chipped, worn chipped teeth. So let's get the cover here cleaned out. Get these cleaned out. We can start reassembling, lubricating, and everything here. Okay. Take the 3-in-1 oil. Lubricate this. This is the anti-reverse lever. So we want to lubricate that shaft there. Put a little down here on this spring. That spring, you pull that spring out, that will allow the lever to come out. That's like a detent spring, holds the position of the lever. Gives the lever a nice firm feeling. Also keeps it in reverse or out of reverse, whichever way you are operating it. Give me another clean Q-tip. That's got a clean end on it. And we'll put a little grease down in here in this case where that main gear rides. Want to lubricate all these parts. Let's come in through front. We'll put a little bit of lubrication on that. That's a support for that axle shaft. And as I said earlier, this slot here is where that pin rides. So we want to have a little bit of lubrication. You don't need a real lot. Light coating will be just fine. Okay, now we can start lubricating and reassembling the parts. I'm going to go ahead and put the rotor back on. I'm going to put a little bit of oil right here on these pivot points on the screw. That'll help free that up. Put a little bit on this side also. Just a drop or two, you don't need a lot. That'll actually help free that up. If that part was not broke, the bail would work fine. It's actually freed right up now. It was a little bit sticky when I started, but now it's working fine. Get my brush here, and we will put a little bit of grease on this shaft. There's a washer there I did not remove. There was no reason to remove it. It's just fine sitting there, and that way I don't lose it. I'm going to fill these gears with grease. There we go. I'll put just a little bit in the pinion, the axle shaft hole there. I'll lubricate the inside where that pinion shaft rides. Looks like it's quite dry. So we'll lubricate that. That'll help reduce any wear. Oh, this reel probably won't go back into service with broken parts. We'll get this back into there. There we go. That's moving. I'm gonna put just a drop or two of 3-in-1 oil down into there. That'll help free it up. Works with that grease. Makes it move a lot freer. I'll put this clip back in. There's a groove on that pinion, behind that pinion gear that clip fits into, and you can see the grooves there where it fits into. That holds it all into place. Okay. And now we can lubricate our main gear and set it back into place. A little bit of lube on the shaft where it rides in that case. Fill these teeth with grease. Okay, for now we'll set that down into the case. Now we're going to lubricate this side where that eccentric arm rides. There, don't need a real lot, a little bit's fine. I'm also lubricating the teeth on that anti-reverse gear there. Okay, we'll stick our light lubrication on our axle shaft here. Just a real fine coat, don't need a lot. I haven't lubricated where my fingers are at yet, but I am going to. That will help it from rusting again. Okay, now we can put our pin back into place. Goes all the way through that hole into that lower slot that I showed you. Now we'll put our eccentric arm on. Slips right over that, snaps down on there, snaps onto that. Now I should be able to show you how that operates. As you turn this shaft goes in and out. You've seen it happen if you have fished at all. You can see how it works internally and what makes it move. Oops, it popped off. The case will hold it all in place. There's actually that flat washer here, it sits here, and it overlaps that eccentric arm to hold that into place from coming off. A little bit more grime right there. Didn't do a good job of cleaning that piece up, I guess. Okay, we'll take our outside cover, a little bit of lubricant into that opening, a little bit on this, oops, don't need that much, a little bit on this side of that shaft. You just need a little bit. We want to put a little 3-in-1 oil on this lever here, make sure it's working smooth. This is the piece that's hanging up, stopping the anti-reverse, keeping the anti-reverse from working properly. That is a spring, so it does not hurt to lubricate the wear points, the areas that it comes in contact with. It's probably wore, it's kind of sticky a little bit. Let's see if this screw's loose at all. No, that screw's good and tight. But that arm is wore. It's got quite a bit of play in it. But not going to worry too much about that unless I can find the part to make that bail release work. Okay, we'll drop this cover on. There's a slot here. Oh, I almost forgot to lubricate that slot. This slot here that pin rides in, we want lubrication in that. The other thing is when this goes on, this sits right on that. So we want this in that position so that'll slide right down past it on that anti-reverse release arm. And then that pin goes into place, and there we are. The cover's back on. We'll get our screws in it. This reel is probably the third or fourth one I've come across that had that pot metal or that type of metal for the bail release, and they've all been broken. They don't take much abuse. I'm thinking if you drop this thing on the ground and that bail's in a certain position, it may be what's breaking it, or you're forcing it. I'm not sure what actually causes it to break, but like I said, this is probably, I'd say this is the fourth reel I've done that's had that issue. And what these old reels, if you got a part laying around, great, and if not, you can try to find it on eBay. Most of these don't have, a lot of these don't have that type of part available new. They're quite old reels. This is probably a 40-50 year old reel. Go back, snug these side cover screws up. That's probably why that had the incorrect screw on the handle, because they couldn't find the correct cap style screw. So let's go ahead and put the handle on. I'm going to drop just a little bit of 3-in-1 oil in this pivot point so it stays nice and free and works the way it should. Okay, this was set up as a left-hand retrieve, so I'm going to set it back up that way. The screw in, get it started, and snug it up. Okay. It's working. It's a little... Anti-reverse is still not working properly. There we are. It's just that lever was stuck. And the arm is wore, so I think that's where the issue is. It does have instant anti-reverse. As soon as you go reverse, it locks up. Then you can release it. It goes either way, back into place, and there it is. The anti-reverse is working again. Okay. This drag is quite rusted. We'll take the spring out. That spring clip holds the drag washers in. These are spring loaded and under pressure, so they will go flying out if you're not careful. This has fiber drag washers, which is stuck to the, probably rusted right to that metal washer. What I want to do here is I like to use an X-Acto knife because it's a real fine edge. I can get in there and usually get them off without breaking it. Like I said, a lot of these parts are not available. I'm sure there's other drag washers that'll fit this. Just figuring out which ones just takes a little bit of time. Now we got it right off there without damaging it. So we have a keyed washer first, a fiber washer. So let's stack them up in their proper order. And we'll pull these washers out. This is the next one. This is the eared washer, and then it has a fiber washer stuck to the back of it. So let's get that fiber washer released. Be careful with this X-Acto knife. It is a very sharp blade. You will cut your fingers if you slip. Sometimes I leave a dull blade in there just so I don't cut my fingers. Okay, now we can put the keyed washer, or eared washer, fiber washer, and see if we can get the last couple out. Okay, there was another metal, and this is, looks like a brass washer here on the very bottom, and that's all. There's no other ones down in there. So we'll get that cleaned out best we can. See if we can get in here without damaging my brush. I don't want to tear my brush up just to do this. This is probably going to be a parts reel. This is good reel for learning on. I have not taken one of these apart, and now I know. So I now know if they have bail release issues, what the possible cause may be. Of course, there's always other issues, so it's always good to investigate. Check it out. Let's clean this washer up. I'm not too worried about getting it all polished up. It's not for looks, it's for work, functionality. Get the heavy deposits off of it so it's nice and smooth is my main purpose on this. It is a brass washer. It does look like it's a spring washer. It is a little bit curved. So that drops down into there first. I'm going to put just a little bit of oil down on that. Just a drop or two. This does have fiber washers. Okay, and this next was this metal keyed washer. Which these are actually not bad shape, so it may be actually that shaft that's not made out of stainless steel. It may be the shaft is not stainless steel, that's what rusted. I want to put a little oil in these fiber washers to rejuvenate them. They are a little bit stiff. And they probably should be replaced, but the drag will function fine. And like I said, trying to find the correct ones can be a chore. So with this probably becoming a parts reel, I'm not too concerned. But I'm still going to do a halfway decent job just in case I'm able to find the parts, which if I find the parts I got to take it back apart anyway, and I'll complete the job, make sure I do a good job reassembling it that next time. So it had the eared washer, now another fiber, a little bit of oil on that fiber just to help rejuvenate it, give her a little bit of lubrication. This top one is definitely rusted. Probably not going to clean up the best, but if we can get it smoothed out. I'm going to actually, I think this side's smooth. I think I'm going to put this side down because that washer may actually wear that, you know, and make it back decent again. I'll put the nicer side up. That is a keyed washer again. Hopefully that's not a mistake. It may tear up that washer, but like I said, this reel probably won't get used ever again anyway. Okay, the spring clip, I want to try to keep the opening away from the grooves in the rotor, the opening in the rotor. I'm sorry, the spool. So hold your finger onto that, pop it down into place. You want to make sure it gets down into that groove so it doesn't come out and the drag falls apart on you. Okay, it's all down in there. These keyed washers are like an oval type shape. They match the axle shaft. This washer that I broke, I'm just going to put it back in because it's no sense of putting a new washer in junk reel. You know, it's not going to go in, it just fell apart. Anyway, put the spool on. We're going to start it on the shaft and then rotate it slightly to get those washers lined up. And slipping down. Oops, that washer's not wanting to rotate. Oops, I lost the bottom one there. Get that washer to line up. And there it is. Now we can put our drag nut back on. Surprisingly, that drag actually worked with them washers being all froze together. It'd probably work a lot better now. Spool works. Drag is working. Boy, that one will lock right up too. Nice. I didn't polish this spool all up. Again, it's a parts reel. But there it is. It's back together. For the most part, it is functioning as it should. And I reverse. You can hear that because of that washer being gone. You can hear that little chirp because the spacing is not correct on it with the rotor. So let's see, the anti-reverse is still working. Pretty much for the most part, this reel is functioning reel. It will need that. Actually, it looks a little bit bent. It don't look like that rotor is sitting even. It looks like it sits higher on that side than this side. It maybe, yeah, it does. You can move it a little bit, probably because the drag's not tightened right down. Also, that washer there, that spatial washer is not in there, so. This is a functioning reel. You could go fishing with it if you wanted to. You just have to trip the bail manually, you know, like I say. Anti-reverse, everything is working. More than likely, this will become a parts reel. Unless I can find them parts. I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking for it because this isn't really a high dollar reel. I don't think it's worth investing the time and the effort into. So I'll keep it around. If I come across another one of these, I'll use this for parts. Alright guys, this video is done. I appreciate you guys watching, hanging out this long with me. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Help my channel out. Try to get this channel up and running a little bit.